Craig and I are so excited tonight to welcome our very special guest, Catherine Lyell. Catherine is one of Australia's leading men's health experts and a practitioner working with men and their health, and also an expert in the area of porn addiction, which is something that many of us don't realise how it can affect us, not just on a social level, but our physiology and in other ways. And Catherine is very kindly agreed to come on and fill us in on a little bit of that and tell us, share with us and explain how that affects us and what we can do about that. And so I would like to throw to Catherine now to just explain what it is you do. Catherine, I know you work in a whole range of modalities and a lot of different areas with men and men's health. So, yeah, please.
Before you jump in, Catherine, another thing I'd like to do before you do introduce yourself is to probably around about the end of our interview, if you're happy to, just provide what you do and what you have of service. So if anything comes up to our viewers, they can access you easily, and because there's so many people that need help around this, it's an epidemic of mass proportions, and more people that can be helped through this, better.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
So
Thank you.
I'm the owner of Integrated Men's Health in Carrum in Melbourne, but I do have clients all over the world, and I do cater for those clients in terms of online programs and online coaching. I'm a kinesiologist. I've been a kinesiologist for over 15 years. I'm a massage therapist, tantric specialist, kundalini activator, what else? Psychospiritual therapist, transformational coach, and I do Chiron healing, energy healing, intuitive healing. I'm a medical intuitive. So there's a lot of things that I do and have studied. However, I've put them together in complex healing systems, and I also teach those. So this year's going to be full of teaching and full of events because we can, and we're not doing lockdowns anymore as far as I'm concerned. So we'll be doing lots and lots of events and training. I help men with porn addiction, sex addiction, sexual abuse. Mental health is also my specialty. So depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues, which a lot of them stem back to porn addiction, because when we've done the research, it came back over 90% of men were watching porn regularly. So this has become the basis and the foundation of my business, because as far as I'm concerned, and the evidence shows this, that you cannot treat men without looking at porn addiction. You just can't. And most men don't look at, see the word addict or addiction, as they don't associate with that at all. Most men say to me, you know, is porn addiction even a thing? I've never even heard. When I tell people what I do, they're like, I didn't even know that was a thing. You know, men contact me every day saying, I'm not a porn addict. And I say to them, like, straight up, they say that without me even, you know, I don't want to give up the porn, but I need some help with anxiety or depression or mental health or PTSD. And I'm like, okay, but I have to ask you about the porn, because the porn causes the brain damage, which causes the anxiety, the performance anxiety, the mental health issues, the depression, all of the things. And I've also linked it to suicide in men as well as prostate cancer. So there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's really cool. Can you just explain to me, when you said brain damage, are you talking about a neurochemical overstimulation there, if for want of a better word? What is that?
So it's probably best we define what porn addiction is, because people just tune out straight away and they think even once a day, 3 times a day. I've had a guy say, I'm not addicted, right? So the definition of porn addiction, it's classified as watching it regularly. So if a man is watching porn, or a woman, once a month or more, it's classified as an addiction. Now, there's 2 parts to that. One of them is it's textbook psychology. You know, you can look up any textbook of the definition of addiction, and if you can't go without something for a month, then it's classified as an addiction. And then, of course, all the men say, well, we're addicted to everything. It's just another one of those things, you know, like gaming or... alcohol every night or whatever, and it's true, right? So that part is true. So that's one part of it, but the other part is my research and my experience of treating over 4,000 men in person, and then I've spoken to over 25,000 men in total over the years. So there's a lot of research that's been happening, both on the job training and experience, and every single client that comes in teaches me something different about, you know, what I need to learn. So it's amazing. But what I've been asking all along is, okay, you're watching it once a month. How often are you masturbating? And they say once a month. And so when was the last time you masturbated without porn? They can't remember. And how old are you? And how old were you when you first started watching porn? You've been watching porn for 55 years. You can't masturbate without it, even though you're only doing it once a month, right? So that's been my experience. And I treat men up into their 80s. 86-year-old is the oldest I've treated. I have a lot of guys in their 60s and 70s who've been watching this for over 50 years. You know, and then there's the 17-year-olds who are brutalized and they're impotent by the time they leave school. We've got major problems in that age group, but
that was a really surprising statistic for me.
Yeah. So it does not discriminate, right? And men, people say, oh, what's your, you know, what's your target market? I'm like, it's all men, because it's the men that I treat in their 60s and 70s. They saw it when they were 5 or 8 years old, and that was before the internet. So you can imagine what's happening now with the kids seeing it and looking for it. And all it takes is them seeing it once, because we have natural curiosity as children and we don't want to take that away from kids, right? But porn, what was porn in the 80s is not what porn is now. And it's trauma. So if you're going to allow your children to see porn, then you're traumatizing them. And I can guarantee you the earlier they see it, I treat the men that saw it when they were 5 are the ones that have massive issues with this. And we're talking ingrained, programmed, conditioned stuff that is very hard to shift. And I've also studied serial killers in my book, because I wanted to go from children to serial killers and show everything in between. And that was actually my favorite and the most daunting and confronting chapter that I wrote. I felt sick afterwards. Obviously, it's very confronting, and there's lots of warnings in the book because of that reason. There's a lot of stuff that people don't see. They don't know. They don't know what I see and what I know. No one could even guess what I hear every single day.
This is the thing, because people don't talk about this subject. And I was completely clueless to so much of this until I started looking into it.
Yep. And so just to go back to your question about the neural addiction, it is a neural addiction. It's not a sex addiction. People are, I don't know, you know, there's other people out there doing all this work around sex addiction, and a lot of it's psychology, and I don't want to take away from that, but anyone that's come in for a sex addiction has a porn addiction that has turned into something else. That's all it is. So it's that neural addiction. It's the sex workers, it's the massages and all of the other extracurricular activities outside of either a relationship, and even if they're single. That addiction started with porn. And what happens is, when you watch porn for the first time, right, we have to go back to the first time, because everyone is over porn, even though they're still watching it. It's boring. It doesn't stimulate them as much. In their 40s and 50s, it's not the same as if a 17-year-old got their first smartphone and a mate sends them a clip, right? So you've got to remember what happened back then, right? And so what happens is the brain goes crazy, and it produces chemicals and hormones. When you couple porn with masturbation, you get a fireworks display, different to if you just watched porn and didn't masturbate, right? So it's the coupling of the two that gives you the biggest rush that you could ever have on this planet, apart from skydiving, but that's adrenaline, right? So you produce oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine. Dopamine is what we call the novelty drug. It's, I like what I see and I want to see more of it. Then you've got the impulse part of the brain, which is the hind brain, which says, we didn't die from this yesterday, so we're going to do it again today. Just like someone will go straight back up and do another skydive after the first one, or they book the next one in, right? Because the hind brain says, we actually didn't die. We thought we were going to die, but we didn't die. Obviously, you're not going to think you're going to die from watching porn, but the excitement back when, you know, mum and dad aren't around and there's a magazine and whatever, there's a bit of fear there, and there's a lot of shame, and there's a lot of like confusion and excitement and all the things mixed in. Well, the hindbrain says, well, we didn't die from doing that. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. And it keeps knocking like a hammer at the brain to keep doing it. So that's the dopamine. The dopamine kicks in before the session once you are in a bit of a habit of doing this, right? So it's like 4 o'clock and you knock off at 3:30 and you're trading. You're on your way home and this is what you do every day. Yep. So you're looking forward to it, or the wife says, I'm going out and taking the kids out, or it's when you first wake up in the morning, because that's when you do it. So whatever your regular cycle is, that's when the dopamine will kick in beforehand. It's not just while you're watching porn. So that's the dopamine. Then you've got the serotonin, which is the happy hormone. You get to feel good when you're watching porn, obviously, right? Then you've got the oxytocin. The oxytocin is the bonding hormone. And this is the one I want to do more work on with the women and the couples and all of that, because it's the bonding hormone. You're bonding to the acts that you're actually seeing. It's produced in high levels in women that just give birth, so they can bond with the watermelon that just ripped them in half for the last 30 hours, right? And it's produced when you have sex with people, and when you pat your dog, and when you hug your children. That's the oxytocin. It's the love drug, right? However, the subconscious mind, so if you're bonding to the acts that you're seeing and you're not watching Debbie Does Dallas on one DVD anymore, because no one's doing that, right? So you're not bonding, it's not Sexpo anymore where you go and meet an actress. No one even knows who the actresses are anymore, because it's either amateur porn or real porn or webcams or, whatever. So, sorry, I've lost it.
So you're not even
That's okay.
getting attached to a particular person that you're watching, as you say with Debbie Does. It's just the act itself. It doesn't matter who the person is.
That's right, and that's where the fetishes start the fetishes start to develop from this connection. But what's also happening is the subconscious mind, which is 95% of our mind. If the subconscious mind thinks you're having a chemical reaction, which you are, you're having hormones rush through your body, you might have goosebumps, you might be horny, you might be, hairs standing on the back of your neck, you're so turned on, your mind thinks that it's happening to you, right? The subconscious mind, if I sat here with a lemon and cut up a lemon and sucked on a lemon, my glands go, and I'm not even eating a lemon, and I tell that story and other people salivate. Right, so if you're watching a movie and you're crying, your subconscious mind thinks that it's your child that's dying, drowning in the river, and your dog that's caught in the fire, right? So the subconscious mind is bonding, plus the bonding hormone is bonding you to all this stuff. So this is where men are turning away from their wives and their partners and the dating scene and all of those things, because A, they've got performance anxiety because they've got erection issues, but B, because they're not getting the rush and the thrill. It's the same as a drug addiction, right? So
I was just going to say that.
Yeah,
That's
you
what
have
it
to
reminds me
replace
of when you were saying.
Yeah, you have to replace the word porn with heroin moving forward. And this is how we get guys to change their mindset around it in a heartbeat, because other coaches will say, go and have a cold shower or pick up a new habit or, those type of things. But you have to really get to the guts of it. That's like going into schools and talking about consent and boundaries is absolutely vital. But if you don't tell the kids that they're going to lose their erections by the time they leave high school and haven't even slept with a girl, then you're not delivering the right scary information. And people think I'm, shaming men and I'm scaring them and whatever. You have to find your why, and your why must be a limp dick for the rest of your life. It must be, that you're going to have this brain damage, because it affects the frontal lobe, the brain damage, right? So you've got this hit and then the crash, hit, crash, right? And the cycle might start off once a month, once a fortnight, once a week, every second day, every day, more than once a day. And what's happened there is your brain is looking for heroin or coke every single day. Whereas before you were happy to go out and be a social drug taker, all right? Same with smoking, right? And drinking and all the things, right? So the cycle gets shorter and shorter because the brain doesn't want to come down from that beautiful hit of love cocktail. It doesn't want to come down. And so it starts searching for another way to get back up. And normally it's porn, because that's the easiest to do and that's what you like to do. But sometimes it's gambling, and sometimes it's, it's other things.
Can I just jump in really quickly?
Sure.
There's something that you were talking about that just struck a chord. In relationships, you'll find just something you said then about it's easier for back in the day, I actually had a porn addiction, and it was really hard because in my relationship, I actually got caught when we were driving down the road. But I found that it was easier to do the porn than be with my partner because there was all this stuff I had to do. And that was the mindset. It was like, oh man, that's just too hard.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go hide somewhere, because we go for that's why we eat the richest foods. Our bodies go towards the easiest way to get the hit.
Yeah.
And it's so, and like food, it's so unnatural. You're not actually getting the vitamins, the minerals, and the things you need in life to really have that fulfillment of all the vitamins and minerals. And I'm looking at the same way as porn, and please address this and see if you agree or not, that when we do this and when we're looking for the McDonald's hit, so to speak, or porn hit or heroin hit, it's so much more unsustainable than a loving connecting true oxytocin, but the spirit coming in as well into that relationship. You're just getting the drug. You're not actually getting the life. You're not getting the interaction, because there is so much around emotional intimacy. This is what I love. We're talking about feeling safe and secure, having our needs met in growth and contribution, as well as our certainty, our uncertainty. All 6 needs are met in a loving, caring relationship that is built on reciprocity and emotional intimacy and emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And I find that so amazing how it was so easy to go, snap, I'm going to the drug, because it's not laziness. It's just like, I have to do so much work.
Yeah. So there's
and
two
it was
things,
this performance thing. Then it was a performance. I'm never going to be good enough. I'm never going to be as good as that guy on the thing. I'm not going to feel that good. I'm not going to. It's taken a long time to rekindle that fire within me, to have loving, caring, understanding relationships, and it still comes through under objectification of women as well. You look at nice tits and ass, and you're like, no, who is she? And that's always my question about. Anyway, I'm wondering if you'd like to address that.
Yeah, so there's 2 things there. One is you've already got a self-soothing mechanism in place for stress and anxiety and tension and whatever going on there. So the quick fix has already been programmed since a young age, because your brain continues to develop until it's 26, 27. And so you've rewired your brain, because every time you get that hit and the crash, your brain it can't accommodate all those chemicals and hormones, so it has to rewire itself, and it has to then accommodate for all those extra chemicals and hormones. So it goes up and it goes up and it goes up, and then it expects all of those levels, right? So your go-to is to masturbate and watch porn, right? Because you want to feel better, right? So there's that thing going on. But the other thing is men and women, but I specialize in men, so we speak in men, so there's no judgment, guys. Men don't want to face, like you just said, if I have to show up in my relationship and she's not having sex with me, let's say, because that's the most common complaint, that's the go-to to porn, right? If she's not having sex with me, I can't be bothered. I'm sick of being rejected. I don't know how to talk to her. She's being defensive all the time. Like, so you've already tried to have or not have those conversations. So when it comes down to it, watching porn and masturbating is a way better option, if you're going to put this on the scales, to facing your shit and being able to communicate with your partner, who's also got a bag load of shit to throw at you, right? And so the communication has to start from the start with open communication in relationships, because I've done this a million times, and a million times I've heard the same story, and it's the guy that got married and the sex was okay for a couple of months and then it dropped off. And we're talking months, we're not talking years. And then there's been a porn addiction the whole time, but they don't want to leave the family, and they don't want to lose their kids and their house and everything they've worked for. And we get that, right? But at what point did you sacrifice your sex life and how valuable sex is to you on your value system with everything else, that the other boxes that you were ticking, right? So there's one thing that we do in the programs is we say to guys, out of 10, how important is sex to you? They always say 7, every single time, 6 or 7, right? Because they downgrade it, because they think a 10 is unrealistic. They think a 10 is I'm thinking with my dick, and all of those other, stereotypes and belief systems that are in society, that men always think they're with their dicks and that's all they want, right? So they downgrade it to a 7. And so when they meet, so they've got a crazy ex every single time, right? The ex or the ex lover is always crazy just before the marriage one, right? Because, and I ask this every time, I say, right, when this marriage started to fall apart and the sex was falling apart and whatever, did you address it then when you were dating? And did you say, this is really important to me? Why is this not important to you? Guess what? We don't match, but do you want to spend the rest of my life with me? Right? And then I asked them, who was the person you were sleeping with before you met your wife? And they were like, oh, she was a six. So she was really good in bed. And I'm like, did she have mental health issues? Yes, she did. Right. So what happens is they swing from the single life of this crazy sex life to like, I need to settle down. I need to downgrade my sex as a value. Right. And when I say to them, my value is 10 out of 10. If you're not connected to your own body, you're not watching porn, you know how to treat a woman, you know how to honor your own body and a woman's body, and don't come near me. Right. That's my absolute value, in apart from, you know, honesty and integrity and affection and all those other things. But men aren't looking at this as a thing that they have the right to feel and be, right? And then the women, don't even get me started on the women. I'm going to start treating the women now, and I have been for a couple of years now, but you know, we're starting to rebrand around it, because I'm going to take this information that I have around all the research and the men's stuff to the women, because the women are very shut down sexually, and you know, there's the love languages aren't getting met, and there's a lot of abuse and lack of communication. And, you know, as a woman, I absolutely, you know, can sympathize with their side of things as well. But I do have a lot of information that women need that they don't know. And they're either blaming themselves or they're blaming the guy. The guy doesn't know. He's blaming. I have guys come in and say, I can't get an erection because I'm sleeping with ugly women. Right? And the girls come in saying he can't get an erection because I'm unattractive. And I'm coming in saying it's porn addiction. Right? And let's just address the addiction.
Yeah, can I jump in there, Catherine? Because that brings up something that was in your latest book, An Uncensored Threat, which I had it right here.
Here it is.
2 seconds, I'll show you mine.
Beautiful. You got to see Melissa's, everyone.
This is what mine looks like. It's because
when I saw that, I nearly died. I'm like, bless you for reading it like that.
The information in here is phenomenal. And I just had light bulbs going off and awareness growing. I'm going, wow. But one thing that did strike me early in your book, you talk about the positive and negative polarities that we have,
yes,
men and women,
yes,
and where they're located. And for men, it's in the groin and the genitals is their positive, like the two poles, we have them in the same place, the heart and the groin.
Yes. But
for men, it's their positive is the groin and the negative is the heart, and for women, it's the opposite. And you were saying, like, for men, and I'd heard this on a different sort of level, but similar, the same sort of thing was that the way you put it was men heal through their groin, through intimacy, through sex, through touch, whereas women heal through their heart and then they open up sexually.
Correct.
So we have this disconnect happening in so many cases, because both men and women are looking for that healing, looking for that connection. Yeah, it's this. But we're just not meshing. Yeah. And so it's, where do we start? Where does that all start to?
In sex, those two poles that's a tantric philosophy, the heart and the groin. And we're not talking about, I mean, obviously your genitals are there, but it's your whole groin. So your groin, men store trauma and stress in their groin, their guilt and shame just above in the sacral chakra, just below their belly button. Their testicles hold emotions of ex-partners, so conditioning, rejection, any toxic relationships. And then the prostate is where they hold a bit of resentment and anger, as well as feeling emasculated and useless as a man. So someone who's just left their relationship, when you go between their legs and you know, because the base chakra is there as well, and you hold that, it's like they can just burst out crying, because it's you know, they've just left their partner and they've lost their kids, so they've lost their roles as a man. Right, so these two poles are negative and positive, and like you said, women heal through the heart first, and then they open up sexually. So even in a one-night stand, right, we're not just talking about relationships. This is energy. Okay, it's not necessarily emotions, but when a woman feels honored, safe, and loved during a sexual encounter, she will probably cry. Right, if you hit the right spot, and I don't mean the clitoris, she will probably cry. The first time I had a full body orgasm was with a stranger massaging me. It was a sensual massage, and I was thinking, what is this feeling, this foreign feeling? And I was trying not to analyze, and I'm like, but I could feel it. It wasn't just an emotion, it was a feeling in my body. And I'm thinking, what is this? What is this? And I'm like, oh my God, I feel loved. And it just went boom up through here.
Wow.
And it's the first time I experienced it. So everything I teach, I've experienced either by accident or through training. And so when you're having sex with someone, let's say you're facing them, you've got a circuit. You have your own energy circuit that runs around like a loop, right? It's the front meridian and the back meridian, if you're talking Chinese medicine and kinesiology. And in Tantra and Taoism, it's called the microcosmic orbit. Same, right? Goes through the chakras and the sexual channels. So you've got this ring of energy running through here, right? And then so is the other person. So when you have sex, your energy becomes one ring or one circuit, right? And this is why I tell people, stop sleeping around, because you're connecting energy with these strangers and you don't know where they've been. I treat sex workers, I treat guys that see sex workers all the time, and I cannot tell you how foul the energy is. It makes me cough and dry reach, and I can hardly stand it. And it's exactly the same as ice addiction. Right, so this is the energy we're talking about, right? So when you're having sex, it's going through the kissing, down his spine, through the genitals, up her spine, and it runs through like that. And any energy workers that practice this kind of stuff, they can actually transfer energy through kissing, transfer it through the heart. They can transfer energy around this circuit. So that's what we're talking.
Interesting that I've heard a lot of sex workers, and it's probably only in movies and stuff that I've picked up, but is it true that they're told not to kiss because of that can be that emotional connection through?
Yeah, then they don't kiss, as far as I've heard. I'm actually starting a project on the side called the Lotus Project, which is working with sex workers to actually teach them how to clear and protect their energy. Because so you've got a sex worker that sees 6 guys a day. Each single guy is sleeping with other women and other sex workers, and then it's all, so she's copying that energy, and he's copying that energy, and that's only one day.
Wow.
Then you got the second day and the third day and the fourth day, and it's like, whoa, it's really, really disgusting energy, right? So in terms of women healing through the heart, that's what I mean. And then she will just open up like a flower. If you treat her the right way during a sexual encounter, we're talking massage and going slow and sensuality and remembering she's not just a vagina. You know, there's neck points, there's a chest, like work your way around, you know, play with her hands. She's got a back as well, right? Not just kiss, go down and fuck. That's what people are doing, right? So we want to avoid that, right? So you got to see people as a blank canvas. I've never been with this person before. What is here? I'm an explorer. Off I go, right? Got my compass, I got my map, I got my hat, and I'm going to see what's here. This is what I teach guys, right? And for the women like to be all sensual and slow and teasy and stuff, but the men don't always, they like it, but there's also, they need the connection with their groin immediately. So my tip to women is be a bit sensual and teasing, touch the genitals, then go back to the kissing and the stuff. They need to connect like the two. This is what happens, right? So men treat women how they want to be treated, and men treat women how they want to be treated. And there's a little bit of you've got to kind of meet in the middle.
Just something you said then, which I'd like to bring up, which I never really was aware of, because I understand one side of it, of the slow down and meet each other's needs. But what I wasn't aware of was you're talking about like sexual promiscuity, meaning that Woodstock would have been shock horror for you. You'd have been like, no, this is all going wrong. What are you doing? This free love isn't free love. It's fucking everything up. That's blown me away.
I'm not against
because
sex and casual sex or anything like that, but you have to protect your energy, right? And for God's sake, learn about the person a little bit at least. Get off Tinder and stop well, I'd rather chew my own arm off than pick up a random stranger and take them home, because I honor my own energy, because I would not let anyone come near me that isn't, and I'm not talking about an interview process or a screening. It's do I feel like this person can enter my body and do me justice? Do I feel like I'm going to be honored by this person? Because I can tell you right now, there are male leaders out there who are in my book who I have had intimate connections with, and they are doing coaching, and they're working in the leaders and the retreats and the fire pits and all the things. And they go to choke you the very first time you have sex with them, and there's slapping and there's spitting and there's pulling hair and stuff, and I'm like, whoa, what are we doing here? Where is the consent and boundaries? I don't, I'm gonna stab you in the nuts, motherfucker. Like, what are you doing? So there's I'm not against sex, I'm not against the free love or whatever. It's all about shield yourself before you have sex with someone. And do you honor your own energy enough to honor and work out who they are? And if you gel, great. If it feels right, great. Most of the time it won't be right. If you keep dating, you'll find out that it's not right. And so having boundaries around that of hang on a second, he just look out for the red flags, people. This is all I'm saying. If someone's doing something strange with you the very first time on a first date or a first time they're with you, you've already flagged it. Your intuition has seen it. So please take action. Just do something about it. Just walk away. You have to be prepared to walk away from any date, business meeting, relationship, any of that stuff. Because if you're not, it means you're codependent. You're feeding off whatever it is that they give you, whether it's attention or love or sex, it doesn't matter. Comes in all different forms. But if you can't walk away and you're saying, oh, but she's hot, or she's, she's good in bed, or, there's no one, what your subconscious mind is really saying is there's no one else around. I don't like being on my own. I don't like being single. I've got a penis here that needs using, and off I go. Right. So just be one with yourself.
Something that came up for me yesterday, I was driving along doing a rubbish run, funny enough, and I thought of myself, and I thought what I heard was this: loneliness is not a good reason to get into a relationship with someone. It's not a reason. It's the worst reason, exactly. And what I've seen in a lot of people, that's where the codependency is. Be happy with yourself first. Be happy with yourself now. Love yourself first, because how can you love someone else if you're not loving yourself? Yeah. So the whole engagement of emotions, because it's emotional intimacy with sex. If you don't have it, and it's just a fornication, you may as well be watching porn, as far as I'm aware. I love the sensuality. I love love. That's always been my number one say. And it's always been about love. And some people have different ideas and ideals around sex, and I'm finding that out. And it's like, wow, it's first about sensuality. I won't sleep with somebody that I don't find emotionally attractive. That don't, and then it's the chase of the values and standards match.
And the thing is, it first of all, it's all about energy. And if you know what you're doing in terms of energy, you can have a one night stand or a casual fling or whatever, as emotionally charged and passionate as you would a relationship. But this is what people don't get. They think women need emotions and love to have sex properly and open up and blah, 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 but you don't, right? So I've been with probably 4 men that are off the top of my head that told me they loved me in the first encounter, or the first week of dating me, because I show up so strongly when I have sex and so energetically, like my body moves and shakes, they can hardly breathe, their body moves and shakes, the kundalini's going off its head. I've got skills in terms of energy and transference. They don't even know what's going on, and they're just like, I want to say I love you and I don't know why. I've heard that so many times, and I'm like, because I'm coming from a place of love, and that's energy. I don't even know these guys at the start, you know. I'm not like waiting 5 dates and whatever. It's just when I feel right and I'm going to go into that encounter, I'm going to show up with all my guns blazing, right? But I'm not assertive. I'm not like, I just wait. You just got to be the goddess and just and not surrender, but just stand still and wait for the man to show up. And when he does, you know, poof. You know, you just gotta,
That's beautiful.
you got to hit him with and people aren't evolving. They think. I had a guy this morning actually contact me saying, you know, who are you to, you know, tell men how to masturbate? Don't they already know? And I'm like, well, no, they don't, because they're not doing conscious self-pleasure. Do you know any? And he was like bragging about it, how amazing he is in the sack and everything, and telling me that he doesn't need to evolve sexually. Then why does he need to come and see me? He was trying to get me to convince him. And I said, well, don't come and see me. If you think you can't evolve anymore, I don't want to see you. And he got really upset. And he said, but you don't, you're a woman. How do you know? And I'm like, okay, let's just tick off some things. How's your breath work going during your masturbation? Are you closing your eyes? How long are you masturbating for? Are you doing energy work? Are you improving those timings? Are you doing 10 minutes, then 20 minutes, and 30 minutes? Can you have orgasm without ejaculation? Do you know what a full body orgasm is? And can you have multiple orgasms? Ta-da! And he just went, I don't even know what you're talking about. And I'm like, and I said, so when you come and see me, we don't just work on evolving you sexually, because he was all like, you need to make me better in the sack. And I said, well, I can do that, but we're not going to talk about sex. We're going to evolve you. And he's like, well, I don't need that. And I said, well, we're going to clear the sabotages, the programs, the pain. There's no pain. There's no programs. And I said, well, you don't need me then. And that's it, you know. So that's the thing. We want people to be open to what else is possible with this, because porn is the opposite of sex, the complete opposite, right? So you're the whole I've got a high sex drive. If I had $1 for every time I heard that, sex drive is a word made up by men who that they think it incorporates libido. Libido is a very big term, right? It's hormones, diet, exercise, you know, genetics, all the things, like age, all of the cycles, blah, blah, blah. So sex drive is a man's word. Libido is the other word, but what we sit in is sexual energy. How high is your sexual energy out of 10? Where's your sexual energy coming from? Can you feel it moving in your body when you're having sex and masturbating? Can you transfer it? And they're like, we don't even know what you're talking about, because their eyes and their brain has become their sex drive. They sit down then and go, come on, penis, let's go, right? There's no erection when guys sit down to watch porn ever, right? So they sit down and they're like, come on, let's go, right? And I call that the greyhound race. So it's the little white rabbit. You're not meant to catch it. Dogs don't know it's real, but they're running for their lives, right? And they're chasing it and chasing it and chasing it. And that's what men are doing with porn because of the brain addiction. And they don't even realize that that's what they're doing. But when I say to them, your sexual energy actually comes from your spine, the base of your spine, the kundalini, it's like two snakes coiled up at the base of your spine. When you're aroused, they'll go up through your chakra and through the back of your neck and your head. That arousal is triggered by the limbic system. The limbic system is your arousal system, as well as other things. So it's your 5 senses, even though we have 33, right? So it's your smell, taste, touch, it's memories, it's music, it's like beer o'clock on a Friday in the city, woohoo, you know, sexual energy. That's what that is, right? So it's the trigger is the sexual, the limbic system of the senses, right? This is why we train guys to diffuse essential oils, specific ones, while they're masturbating, and to listen to music and to start making sounds and to feel their body, to touch the back of their neck and their head and think about where they're laying and does the sheets feel soft, and putting their feet together and things like this, because they've brutalized their limbic system. Now, you won't get blood flow to your penis until your limbic system is activated and your sexual energy is charged. This is why Viagra doesn't work for guys that watch porn. because they've got no sexual energy. They have obliterated it through the addiction process.
So through watching porn, they're basically outsourcing their stimulation. They're not in touch with themselves, their own
it's just a drug
senses
addiction. So it's got nothing to do with their penis or their reproductive system or their sexual energy or their limbic system, or the limbic system kicks in, and that's the problem, right? So it's all visual, right? So and then their body starts to react and they get goosebumps. I can guarantee you the guys that are in their 40s are not getting goosebumps now from watching porn. It's like, fast forward this, get another one, fast forward. I can't, like, come on, penis. You know, I know men in their 70s who are masturbating for 2 hours a day, even though they haven't had an erection for 20 years, and they're still watching porn and masturbating 2 hours a day.
So it's like that drug thing again too. You're chasing more and more and more all the time to get the same effect.
Yeah, and you wear out your dopamine receptors. So you and not just in porn or sex, right? So you've got gaming does the same thing. It wears out the dopamine receptors. So when you take your phone off your child, as I've been finding lately, there's boredom, there's mental health issues, there's aggression, there's agitation. It's like, I can't, life is boring. I want to be back on my stimulus. Right? And this is why kids and devices, get off them. That's a whole other conversation.
We get addicted to all sorts of things. Just for instance, the other day I did, to boost my vitamin D levels, I was going out. I thought, okay, I'm going to lay out in the sun, something I never do. 10 minutes front, 10 minutes back. The first 5 minutes, I'm going, oh my Lord, this is boring. How am I going to do 20 minutes of this? And after I got through that first 5 minutes and started to just notice the feelings around me and to look at the back of my eyelids and see the colours and the patterns, and all of a sudden I went over my next 5 minutes and I turned over and I went, I don't actually want to go back inside now, I'm enjoying this. But I hadn't stopped for so long. I'm so used to being busy.
That's it. And when my phone dies, I'll be the first to admit I've got a phone addiction, but it's all work. But it's obviously created a massive, dopamine addiction that I need to be busy and working all the time, because when it dies, I go, and then I forget. So I'm sitting on the couch watching a movie and then I go to press my phone. It's just a natural thing to just press the phone and light it up and see what's there. And I'm like, oh, that's right, it died. And then I do it again and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like a goldfish. When am I going to remember that my phone just died and I have to charge it? And then I get agitated waiting for it to come back on. And when we went camping, I was like, oh, like I've got to stop this, because we do get agitated. And this is the brain damage, right? I'll just touch on the brain damage so people understand. It's worse than heroin damage, right? Heroin is normally a short-term, can be a long-term addiction, but normally they die or flip their lives around, right? So you're watching porn for 55 years. You don't have a heroin addiction for 55 years. So the damage to the brain over long-term is worse than heroin. And you can have a look online. There's brain scans and stuff to prove all of that. What happens is it's the frontal lobe that gets damaged. Now, the frontal lobe is the control panel of your personality, right? So when guys feel like they're a bad person and there's a lot of shame connected to this, it's because it's become part of their identity. And when I say to them, they sit here in front of me and I say, are you willing to give up the thing that's making you sick? And they go, yes. Right? They don't want to give it up because they don't know who they are without porn. And most of the time the feedback is when I didn't realize how much time I was watching on porn and how much effort and energy I was giving it, and all of a sudden now I've got all these other things I can do and whatever, right? So the control panel of your personality is where your depression and anxiety come from, the frontal lobe, right? So this is why I've linked it to suicide in men, because the levels of suicide percentages compared to women is 80% is men, and no one's looking at why, apart from life is stressful and we've got technology and everyone's so busy, but mental health, but why? Right? So if not over 90% of men have porn addictions and it's damaging their brain, then why are they killing themselves? Right? So it's the frontal lobe. The depression and anxiety comes from there. Your decision making, your focus and concentration, and your memory. Your emotional expression comes from there. So many men come in here and they say, when I start talking about, I need you to write down the emotions when you're masturbating, what's coming up, it's 2 emotions. They're like happy, horny, And that exercise is there for them to start realizing that they actually have no sympathy, no empathy. They don't have any understanding in a relationship of the woman's going, oh, you're making me feel this and I feel this. And he's like, I don't even know. And it's not his fault necessarily because he's got this brain damage, right? It's where you it controls sexual behaviors and behaviors in general, impulse control. So if you are, now visiting, sex workers and whatever, then you've just got this no control happening in your frontal lobe. So it's part of your identity. Then it decreases grey matter in the brain as well. Grey matter is your nervous system and coordination, that type of like bodily functions. The penis is always ruined because the brain because every time you have a hit, you have a crash. And when you have a crash of those chemicals, prolactin goes up. Prolactin is a hormone that causes erectile dysfunction. And every time you're overstimulating the brain, you're desensitizing the penis. Men there's so much confusion in the body. They can't ejaculate. They can't orgasm. Their orgasms are tiny. They're ejaculating without orgasm. They're not getting erect, but they're turned on, or the opposite. They're getting erections, but they're not turned on at all. I see this all the time. And this is why we do the work that we do. Did you want me to go into how we help the guys?
Yeah, I do.
Actually,
But there's just one thing I just wanted to throw through it's a dichotomy statement, or dichotomous statement, which is the opposite to that. I've experienced sex on an emotionless scale, and it's actually really shit. It's not good. There is no for me, and being vulnerable here, I've always wanted to be the pleaser, to be the performer, and then finding that it was actually emotional connection, and that real an emotional stimulus, that emotional that feeling of safety, like you said. That's where the performance really lies, because it's not an act anymore. And I just wanted to especially tell the guys from a guy's perspective is, if you really want to have great sex with a woman, have her feeling safe and have her feeling like she is in control of the situation as well. Because it's amazing how much emotional intimacy and connection turns sex into amazing sex. And if you really want to have amazing sex, porn is nothing compared to that emotional connective sex. Yeah. And I just wanted to throw that in there before we get in there to really understand that what we're living, it's the choice of eating a plant-based holistic meal, or going and having McDonald's every day and getting fat, overweight, and feeling so shit all the time. It's the absolute thing.
The reason I do what I do, my journey started long before I did any research on porn. Everyone thinks I'm a woman scorned, and that's why I do what I do. And it's not true at all. It's just that because I didn't know, I hadn't flagged porn. I didn't know, because porn is a secret thing, secret squirrel. No one ever tells anyone, right? And so I've asked every single man that I've treated, not one of them has told their partner the habit, the cycle, what they're watching, how often they're doing it, where they're doing it. They're doing it at work. All the research is in the book. You can see all the men have answered all the questions, and you can see exactly what they're doing behind closed doors, behind relationships' backs, right? And so there's this thing happening, this secrecy happening, and so I've never known, I've never asked, in the past, right? But I now know. The men that I have had intimate relations with, that the ones that were mind blowing and leaving your body, and you don't even know where you are, and you're like, what day is it? And you're not talking about positions, or like you do this and you do that, and like what you said, women need to feel like they're in control. Well, I would say it's actually the opposite. Yes, to begin with, but everyone needs to be able to get to a point where they're vulnerable enough to lose control. And when you lose control, you don't even care who's got what bits in where, and you're like, I don't even know how to let go of you, because you're like right here, and you've become one unit, with the energy and stuff. So
I agree there, Catherine. That was something that came up for me listening to Craig. Was it's not necessarily speaking from a woman's perspective that you want to be in control. You want to feel safe.
Being out of control.
you want to feel safe in that space that you can bring,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I'm
everything,
glad
and
you clarified that.
you can
Yeah.
be vulnerable.
Yeah, because the
Yeah.
guys that I've had those relationships with, they're the ones that don't watch porn, right? So I've only ever met 22 men in my career, and we're talking personal life as well, when I've started asking, that is. You know, and I look back, there was one guy that I met that I call him the porn angel. He came into my life and said, I had a porn addiction in the past. I can't even tell you how bad it was, but I could see all the symptoms. I didn't know that stage, and I put two and two together. Only dated him for 3 weeks, but I was like, he was like the catalyst for like me understanding what was actually going on. And because I'm special in terms of my gifts and abilities and energy and stuff like that, and I'm an empath and I feel things, and I pick up on things, and I'm psychic, right? But when I'm with someone, it's for me, it's got to be that or nothing. And because I've known that, a lot of people have never experienced that, what I just described, the out of body experience and stuff, and connecting to a person on a soul level. And so this is why years ago, I'm like, one day I'm going to teach people how to have sex properly, because I don't believe that people are doing it right. And then so we start with the masturbation. If you're not doing that right, you're not going to have, whatever you do in masturbation ends up happening in sex, right? So if you're doing a quick rub one out in the shower and there's no conscious anything around it, then you're literally just releasing the demon seed into the drain. That's what we call it, the demon seed, because the men have actually called it that. Right. So it's like, if I don't have the time to spend ritualistic time with myself right now, like 10 minutes we're talking, right? So when the lights are dimmed and I've got the music on, I've got my coconut oil, and I'm going to, like, you know, work myself into an energetic frenzy with the breath work and stuff. If you haven't got time to do that for 10 minutes without the porn and without external stimulation, then don't do it. Right. And so I teach masturbation. That is the answer to everything. Right. So when the women come and see me, I'm like, how often are you masturbating? You know, what's going to go? Oh, I can't orgasm. Okay. So if you're having trouble in your sex life, and I'm talking about this sex life, right? Your sexual health, your orgasm, your ejaculation, the body parts and the shame and the fat and all the things. If this isn't happening, then how do you expect that to happen with someone else, right? And so we teach men, it's training. I call it military training, because I'm really like, this is it. We're going to do this, right? They get strict instructions. And there's various ways to do this, right? We've got the 2-week challenge, which is $17, and that's the taster. That's how men can have a look at what I'm actually talking about now. So they get a checklist, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, and it's called a challenge for a reason, because no one can get it right. And I channeled this information years ago. You've got to give them homework, because you can do the magic all you like on the massage table, but if they're not doing it at home and they're not practicing all of the things you're teaching them, then it's not going to work. Right, so the 2-week challenge is there. Then we've got the 30-day program, and that's it takes 90 days for the brain to rewire people. All right, so if you're going to do anything, it has to be for 90 days. If you're going to change a habit or behavior. However, my 30-day program hits them with a lot of content each week and masturbation homework all the way through. They then get an extra 30 days after that, so it's actually 60 days of support. And they have to design, after everything they've learned, the microcosmic orbit, the sublimation breath work, all of the circular breath work, the meditation, the trying to have orgasm without ejaculation. They decide at the end of that 30 days, they get a blank calendar, and then it's like, what do you want to do from here on in? Do you want to do Tai Chi? Do you want to do? So I teach them all the energy practices, and then it's up to them, because it has to be part of your lifestyle. Otherwise, they'll just go back to rubbing one out. And if we haven't rewired the brain around porn and masturbation, every time they want to masturbate, they'll watch porn. So we have to rewire that around masturbation. We're going to teach them to masturbate without porn, so that those two are no longer connected. All right, so there's the 30-day program, and then that's called From Porn to Pleasure. And it's called the path of least resistance. Like you were saying before, everyone takes the easy way out. Well, trust me, if you don't like masturbation homework, and that's not an easy way to fix this problem, then, you know, there's something wrong going on there. If you prefer to, you know, have cold showers and take up a hobby, then go for your life. But if you want to really rewire this, you have to do this masturbation homework, and it changes and evolves. There's 90 days of masturbation homework. for the 90-day program, guys. And then the other thing that I do is I have treatments, and the signature treatment's called integrated massage therapy. It's not just a massage. It's a 3-hour consult when you first come in. There's a 6-page form you fill out so that you don't have to talk about your problems. I ask you all the questions I need to know. We don't want you in your story. I don't want to know about your sex life. I don't want to know about anything that's ever happened to you. You just tick, what was your childhood like? Have you been sexually abused? Like tick, 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 tick. What's going on with your prostate? Like it's all this big form. I then go through the form. I explain to them how porn addiction works. We then do some training around the actual treatment itself because we're activating Kundalini. Now, this is the key. This is why it's not just a massage. Kundalini activation will stop porn in its tracks. Men don't feel like watching porn ever again after one session if the Kundalini activates in that session. And the way that does it, their body starts to move and shake. So we know it's not just like, oh, I do Kundalini yoga and my Kundalini is activated, and, you know, hats off to those people. But if your body isn't moving and shaking like this, then your Kundalini hasn't activated. And when that happens, the guys are like, I don't feel like watching porn ever again. I'm like, yeah, but you've only had one session. So we've estimated around 6 to 8 weeks. If you've only had one session, your body, your brain, your body, everything starts to then go back into old habits. And then you'll get a trigger like stress at work, and then you'll go back to porn, right? So you have to continue to do the work, whether it's with me or not. I recommend 3 sessions of that. We activate the Kundalini. We're taking everything back up to the heart, everything. So men think through here, this is the work, this is the relationship, and this is the sex down here. And they cut themselves off from the waist down because there's no sex in their relationship. They don't want to leave their partner, and they love their job. So they're outsourcing their sex life to something else, whether it's porn, massages, whatever, right? So my job as an energy healer, I do a lot with meridians and stuff in kinesiology, is to reconnect the organs, the glands, the chakras, the meridians, and take everything back up to the heart. Then we clear the throat chakra because they're not asking for what they want. They're not being heard. And so it's all about the heart and the throat and the sacral chakra, which is all about sexual health and sexuality, but that's where they desire and motivate from. So if you have a sexual imbalance, right, it hits you in the sacral chakra, which is your sexual chakra. If you have a sexual imbalance, you'll be failing in life. Now, when I say failing, it's a terrible word, but let's call it flatlining. So you're just getting through the days. You're ticking the boxes, you're going to work, you're coming home, you're doing the family stuff, you go to sleep and repeat, right? And when we fix these sexual imbalances, now porn addiction is one of them, sexual abuse as a child is another one, but also being rejected in a marriage is a sexual imbalance, and it will affect your business. Your clients will start dropping off. You won't be doing advertising. You won't be cooking meals. You won't be creating holidays or anything for your family because you have a sexual imbalance. So it's very complicated. If anyone wants the information, I can send it to them because it's very hard to explain it all. But I've programmed the body, the massage, so they'll feel like I'm going up their thigh and massaging a muscle, and I'm not. I'm checking their gallbladder. And then I'm doing their bladder meridian, which holds anxiety. Right? So I've programmed this massage with all of my complex healing systems, and that's why it's not just a massage, and that's why I have results like that. We're working at a cellular level. It's not just the brain. Yeah. So there's that, and then there's other stuff. There's online coaching as well, the kinesiology by itself. But I have a heap of ebooks so I've got 3 ebooks for free. Another one, which is my first ebook for $2.95. My latest book as well, The Uncensored Truth. Just gonna like, woo.
Yeah, it's so cool. Mel, can you just quickly show your one? It's got, this is what I mean about C energy. It's like bookmarks all the way through it. It's like...
When she showed me that, I was like, oh my God, this is how I want people to read it, right? Because when I first wrote this book, they told me it was too long. And all the way through the course and the year that I was trying to publish it, they kept saying it's too long, right? 30,000 words is the average. No one's going to read it. You know, they were saying it in a nice, constructive way and asking me to consider that it was 2 books. And I just kept saying, no, it's a workbook. If you've got a workbook, you just pick it up. You can go to any chapter in this book and read it. This isn't a novel. You don't have to start at the start and go to the end, right? My life story is in there, which is great.
You can open any page and find something.
Yeah, and all
Yeah, it's so cool, isn't it?
in the back, there's all of the like the masturbation homework. So you get the 2-week challenge for free when you buy the book, and all the information that you need for that is in the book as well. There's exercises for couples, there's intimacy, I'm just going to show my favorite page. I don't know if you can see that. That's my penis. Oh, not my penis.
Catherine, is there something you're going to tell us right now? You got a penis?
No, not my penis. So my client, Alexis, drew that. That's a drawing, can you believe it? And it goes into the lingam, which is the name for penis, reflexology, right? So there's points on the penis that correlate to organs and glands and things, and you shift the energy out of there, right? By, so around the top of the penis is the lungs. The lungs is about grief. So, you can give yourself more than a massage when you're doing this work at home. You can actually clear blockages and emotions out of your body.
Yeah, funny how it's missed out. That's really good information.
There's something else I'd love to just bring up for people watching this, Catherine.
Sure.
That really blew me away too on the physical level is when a guy ejaculates, he's losing half of his daily zinc.
Yes.
In that, and that's needed for building muscle mass, like zinc has, and testosterone levels, and losing selenium, which can lead to long-term prostate cancer.
Yeah.
Like there are actual real health detriments that can happen through sort of not doing it. And you talk about something that brought back memories of when I was young, and kids are talking to each other about sex, and guys are going, "Oh, I've got to be able to ejaculate, or I'll get blue balls."
Yes.
And yet it's not actually something that they want to be doing all the time.
No.
Actually ejaculating, you can have an orgasm without ejaculating, and
yes.
that's something I think a lot of guys are scared of doing.
That's right. And they don't know that it's possible. So we teach guys to separate orgasm and ejaculation are two separate processes that occur normally at the same time, because that's all and what you've trained your body to do. But ejaculation is, fluid coming from your testicles and your prostate. It's a reproductive function, even though we know that men love to play paintball with it, right? So, and it's a territorial thing. And where do you want me to put this? And, here's my gift to you. Just like, the dick pics are the gift, like a cat dragging in a mouse. Yeah, thanks. So it's just a reproductive function, and it's the orgasm that we actually focus on. The orgasm is the feeling, the good feeling. So men freak out when they do work. They're like, oh, I don't want to, I love ejaculating. I'm like, you love the feeling, correct? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, well, that's the orgasm. That's not the ejaculation. And most men are having localized orgasms. So it's just like a little kind of like type thing in the groin. And we teach you how to have a like, oh my God, what is going on, with my body. But every time they ejaculate, they lose nutrients and minerals. Zinc is one of them. That's the biggest one. You lose half your daily recommended intake of zinc. We are not getting zinc from our foods. Our foods are frozen and zapped and whatever, right? And so you have to take a zinc supplement as a man. You absolutely do. Women should be on it as well. And we recommend, I'm not a naturopath, so I can't prescribe, but it's the 50 milligrams. Go to your health food shop, and 50 milligrams a day for a man, because zinc is how you produce testosterone. Without the zinc, and every man, I reckon, that's watching porn has a zinc deficiency. I'm working on how to test them in here. Because if you've got a zinc deficiency, you'll have a copper toxicity. Copper and zinc work together. And if you Google copper toxicity, you'll see the definition of a porn addict, of what we see it, the low moods and the greasy skin and going bald and acne, tired and all that, right? So that's zinc and copper. You lose selenium, which keeps the prostate healthy. And in terms of the prostate, when you produce too much of oxytocin and dopamine and serotonin and testosterone, you damage the prostate, right? So because it swells up, and you can't keep doing this. And I've got a client in America. When he first contacted me, he called me, and back in the day when I used to take calls, and he had a very deep voice and an American accent. So a deep American accent, you assume he's a man. And we got talking, and I asked him, I got my form, and how often do you masturbate? And he said 36 times a day. And I was like, did you just say 6? Thinking that was a lot. And he said, no, 36. And then he said, I said, how is that even possible? Do you not work? And he said, on school holidays. And I went, oh my God, how old are you? And he said 16. So he's probably 19, maybe 20 now. And he's had a double hip replacement, or was due to have one. He has an autoimmune disease or condition, and he has had a bone marrow transplant. Right? Because this kid was masturbating over 30 times a day for a long period of time. And you can imagine, even when it wasn't that, he was working up to that amount of time. So he's ejaculating every single time. You don't just lose your nutrients and minerals, though, you lose your chi. And then the other thing is your testicles go into what we call a ejaculation hangover. They require energy from the body. We're all made up of energy, right? Just like when you're getting a cold, your thymus, you know how you feel like you've been hit by a truck that first day, you're like, oh, I'm getting sick. That's your thymus shutting down the body to prepare for the battle of the virus or the bacteria or whatever. So the nuts are shutting you down. That's the tired feeling, because you've lost your sexual energy, your chi, and then your nuts are requiring energy to produce all the extra sperm that you just lost. Now, I had a guy yesterday message.
That's why they go into that slump afterwards.
Yeah. It's like, oh, now I've got relief, or I'm not stressed anymore, or I can roll over after sex, or they shut down. They're so tired. This is why you shouldn't masturbate while you're sick. If you're going to ejaculate, because it just depletes you even more. And people will probably notice that when they're on medications, cold and flu tablets especially, or when they're sick, they have trouble having an orgasm. And when they do, it's like a little like, boo, I call it like a speed hump orgasm. Like, did I just hit an animal? Like, what was that? Right? So it's like your body doesn't have the energy. That's what orgasm is. It's sexual energy built up in the body. And this is why we train guys to slow down on the frequency of masturbation and spend longer in the session. So they end up doing it once a week for 20 minutes, for 30 minutes, for 40 minutes. And they learn to edge, and then they do it every single day without ejaculating. And then that puts pressure on the body to have an orgasm without ejaculation. It's very complicated.
It's actually really informative, and it runs a lot. One of my mentors, Napoleon Hill, wrote a book, The Law of Success in 16 Lessons. And in this book, he talks about the transmutation of sexual energy into business. And you were just talking about that. Yeah. And this isn't just some person. Catherine, you're not some person that's just come along and you woke up one morning and had this brilliant idea that, hey, guess what? I know exactly how to fix all men. This has taken research, this has taken development, and this isn't just some crazy scheme, because everything you've said has correlated with some sort of modality that I've already learned. So I Ching talks about meridian systems and the on-offs, and everything that you've explained is verifiable through you just don't come up with something, and what you're saying has hit a chord. And all of the research, it must have taken so long to learn this. And I just want to give you some validation, because I hear so many guys out there, especially, just going, what are you doing? And I was like, those guys are just coming from a place of ignorance and hurt. Yeah. And it's just hurt people. I just want to tell you that I admire your work, and there's so much work that's gone into it. And there's so much development that's gone into it, and so much research that's gone into it. Learning the body and the meridians and energy fields and how they flow, like they go through like an apple. You cut an apple in half. Everything you've said has been just bang on. And I just want to appreciate the fact that you've taken the time to come onto our show and have a chat about this. And also thank you for saving many men and many relationships, and teaching to have real sex. Yes, please. That would be good, because even women don't even know. And what I was saying before about sexual performance and the doing and losing the control. What I meant was, guys, stop trying to do. Yes. Stop trying to perform.
Get out of your head.
It'll get out of your head, get out of the as we call AD, audio digital, and into the space, into the heart space, into the feeling space, into the body space, into all of your body, because your body is where you're saying memories are stored. So when you do poi, or when I do fire art, where I open up synapses in the mind when I do a new move and when you create a new move. So all of that kinesthetic feeling, touching, it's not groping, it's feeling it all form. I don't go for a grope, feel the form. And I just want to thank you so much for everything that you've said, that I've been just wanting to delve into even more. It's so good to have someone with that much knowledge.
I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on my education. I was in corporate for 20 years. I'm a single mom. I've been doing this on the side. All my money, all my time goes into this life. It's my life's work, and when guys start saying, well, you're a woman, you don't have a penis. So I just go back to them saying, do you have to be a female to be a gynecologist? It's just, how stupid do you sound right now, buddy? And then I say to them, because I try not to get defensive, but at the same time, you just want to slap them across the head. You're like, how many men have you treated? And they go, what do you mean? And I go, well, how many men have you treated? And they're like, I haven't. And I'm like, and how many men's penises do you know about other than your own? And they're like, well, I don't. And I'm like, so you're one man. And, and I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I'm very intuitive. And so when you say didn't all just drop in, and what it did actually, and it drops in first, and I get shown on the body. And then like one day I'm massaging this guy, and this was just before my book was released, and I was guided prostate, so I had my hand shoved up between his legs, and gallbladder at the same time, which is the thigh, and I'm running the thing because my hand stops when there's blockages, right? And I don't just go, oh well, I'll see if there's a blockage. It literally, my body reacts to the blockages. So I'm going up here, and I've got my hand up here going like, this is a bit like tapping your head and whatever. Why is this even happening? So then I get off, like he leaves, I go up to my computer and I Google prostate and gallbladder. And what I discovered was, because I haven't done all the research, but I'm getting shown the information. So it's all on Google. So you got prostate and gallbladder, and it turns out that men that have gallbladder issues, so gallstones and sick gallbladders, which a lot of people don't know that they have, are 65% more likely to get prostate cancer. Right, so there's a correlation, because I'll tell you why. Because gallbladder is anger and frustration, and impotence sits there. So I don't have my gallbladder. So I've had migraines every day for 2 years because I'm so frustrated and angry at what. And there's no gallbladder there. So my gallbladder channel is trying to, and there's 36 points of the gallbladder channel on the head, right? It's the main channel. So I'm, and the gallbladder and the liver work together. Liver is yin and yang. Liver is anger and resentment. It'll wake you up between 1 and 3 a.m. every single night if you're not dealing with your shit, right? So my body shows me stuff. And then, so after this Google, I'm like, I wrote a whole thing on it in my book. And then sure enough, the next day, a guy shows up and says, I've had 6 gallbladder operations.
Wow.
And I was like, and it's still not right. It's still there. It's stuck to my liver. And then the next person that comes in and says, I've got gallbladder issues, right? So I get shown stuff, and then I research it. That's my middle name. And then sure enough, all of the people start coming in with the gallbladder issues and the frustration and the migraines and whatever. So I am literally always researching, always understanding, and asking whoever it is that's showing me this information. Like I was doing this massage before I even knew what it was. I was doing sublimation breath before I knew what it was, so it associates highly with Tantra, but it's also older than Tantra. We're talking Egyptian and star systems and all the weird stuff. Anyway.
Understood.
So I just wanted to say also, I'm happy to give your listeners my 2-week challenge for free, because when I do podcasts and interviews, then I'd like people to get a taste of what we're doing here. And so I'm happy to do that. So I'll give you the link there, and people can jump on and get it for free and try it and just see where they're at. Because if you, trust me, you'll think you've got erections and high sex drive, but if you quit porn just for a second and try and masturbate without porn, you're going to see where you're at. And I don't need to tell you anything. You're just going to see it.
Yeah, that's a fabulous offer.
That's
Thank
beautiful.
you, Catherine.
Thank you. That's
we'll
very
drop links. Your links to how they can contact you as well, get in touch with you, and the links for that, we'll drop them into.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Catherine. I could just talk to you all day.
There's a lot to talk
there is
about.
there is an amazing amount to unpack around this, and
wow.
yeah, the depth we can go into is just
I'm sure
phenomenal.
I will see you all
I
again
recommend
soon.
anyone who's interested, grab a hold of this book.
Yeah.
The Uncensored Threat. It is so worth a read.
It is.
Just to get to know yourselves, and for women too,
Yes.
because we're not taught
No.
about how to get in touch with our own bodies either. None of us are actually there'll be very, very few people who have ever had anything more than the standard, sex talks at school.
Exactly.
Which don't get into it's the mechanics of it more than anything, and they touch on some of the other stuff, but we're not taught about how to actually get in touch with ourselves. And to really feel and
it's definitely for women. When I first started writing, it was for men. And the journey itself of this book has been, that's a whole other book, because it's been a catalyst for so much change in my life and things falling away that should have, fallen away a long time ago. A lot of grief and loss. But what I realized was, when I had to write the foreword and stuff, which you do when you've kind of finished the book, I was like, oh my God. So there's two voices here, and the publisher picked up on it. There's two voices, your professional voice and your personal voice. And I was like, that's what this journey is for me. It's bringing because I'm a woman, I haven't been able to speak about toxic masculinity, sex trafficking, in terms of what I do, because men are like, oh, she's a traitor and she's a woman and she's, scorned and blah, blah, blah.
Judged for where you're coming from.
So I had to bring these two voices together. And I think I've done that. And by the end of it, I was like, this book's for women. There's some exercises in the back that women can do. You can do the masturbation homework. You just ignore the stuff about erections. You can do all of it, the intimacy, the breath work, the training, all of it. But the book, my stories in there, and my experiences with men and all of the toxic masculinity that I've experienced. And it was very scary to write this, and legally scary to write it. But I believe that the book is for women, and the men need to read it as well. So it's kind of shifted.
And because what it allows, and I think the biggest thing to take away from this is to suspend judgment.
Yeah, you have to open
yourself,
up. What
on
else
others.
is possible?
It is about learning to understand ourselves, learning to understand the men in our lives, for the women who are watching, for men to learn to understand themselves, to not have judgment around that, just to know that, most of us aren't aware of it, and when you can't do better unless you know better.
So I've got some
And
workshops
so
coming up for
it's
women.
about having compassion for ourselves, for others, and then stepping up and doing the work.
So I'm going to start teaching the women about men, about their penises, about the parts of the penis, and all the things that I've learned. All
it
the
helps us understand our men.
Yeah, like I meet with friends, and this has been happening for years. I go out for drinks with friends, whatever. Fast forward to when you're in the D&M stage and everyone's like quite drunk. I'm standing there like telling women how to, do this and how to do that. And the men are all standing around like, who is this person? What is, like, because they start laughing like, oh, porn addiction. Oh yeah. But then because everyone's drunk, and then you start actually asking questions without putting people on the spot. And you end up with a big crowd around you because no one talks about it. And when you talk about it, they start talking about it. Then they tell their mates. We're starting to actually see referrals come through now. It's taken 8 years of me doing this full time.
You start to realize you're not the only one.
It's you and every other guy. It's the same story. People contact me and they say, oh, you can't help me. I'm too far gone. And I'm like, try me. Because I have stories that would make you curl, and you're not even close to that level of what I can do and what I've seen and heard. So men have got this thing, and I'm sure women are the same, like no one's going to understand me. I'm the only one, that type of, I can't ask for help. You just have to turn up. You don't have to sit here and like, I'm going to help you. I'm not a psychologist that just says, and tell me now how you feel. Like, I'm like, try this, do this, let's do this. And we just shift it. Right. And it's all about the mind body connection. And, psychologists send people to me because, there's only so much you can do with talk therapy. I can tell you that right now. Yeah.
And it's not all about the guys having to do the work of fixing themselves.
No,
it's
they just got to do as
the
they're
women
told.
and the men being able to work together and to understand each other. It's not, okay, it's all your fault.
No.
You need to fix yourself.
Yeah.
We can support them through that. And we can look at
Absolutely.
our own addictions and our own what's going on for us.
Yeah.
It comes back to, Craig and I we did a talk the other day, our core needs, our core needs of love and connection, of significance, knowing that we matter, of variety, of security and comfort. So all of that ties in with it as well.
And let me just clarify that, Craig. When I say you just have to do what I told you to do, I just mean I've got the information, I've got the guidelines, I've got the checklist. Like this is the path of least resistance. I've taken the hard work out for you. You just have to go home and do things with your penis and tick it all off, so you don't have to do this anymore on your own, right? You've got me, you've got my full support, and if you want to step up and do the work with me, then I've got packages and all the things.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Catherine.
Thank you.
It's such an enlightening conversation.
I loved it.
And I trust that our viewers take away heaps from this.
Okay.
It's such a conversation of optimism, of hope for the future, and knowing that there are things that can be done to improve.
Yeah, we got the keys to the kingdom. You just have to contact me.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thanks, Craig.
Absolutely
and Mel.
phenomenal. Thank you. It's been so good talking to you.
Into the chat.
Okay. Beautiful.
I just think I'll just be texting you, ringing you, so I can just talk to you more about this because it's so much fun.
It's a good topic.
But it's a great topic because there's so much to unpack. Thank you so much for coming along. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you down the line a bit. So Beautiful. Good to see you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for coming on. If anything comes up, guys, that you need to discuss and talk with, as you know, Catherine's the emotional intimacy, we're the emotional intimacy, Catherine is too. However, she also does all these amazing modalities. Please contact her.
Thank you.
And if you, please. Thank you so much, Catherine, for coming on. We'll see you later.
See you later.